You got the music lined up? You guys hear me? Randall?
Welcome, everybody, to the Judicial Accountability Movement Live with Brian Kinter, Randall Stone, and yours truly, Ted Fogg. How are you two doing?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Doing great.
Good to hear it. So, we had some issues getting this going, but we are finally on social media and Blog Talk Radio. So right now we have the Judicial Accountability Movement, the JAMS group picture as the background. So we're in front of the Lincoln Memorial. What do you think about that, Brian?
I love it. I think it was great. You know, I don't know how you guys do all the things that you do, but I appreciate everything that you do. You know.
Well, we appreciate everything that you do. Let me just ask you to move a little bit closer to the center of the screen. There we go. I know when it was just you and me, we were on a couple of shows together. You were on the original Million Parrot March Live, and I just gave you the whole screen because I know you like to move around and stretch out. But now you're sharing the screen with Randall, so we have a little bit less room.
Yeah, Randall's a little bigger than I am, so I have to make sure I always, submit to him.
Right. So, it's your show, Brian. So wherever you want it to go, I will follow.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk tonight about some of the things that's going on with, I'm sitting on the board for the National Strategy Management Board, trying to figure out how do we take and unravel this whole mystery when, as it appears, and it's just an appearance, the more you go up the ladder, the more no's that you get when it comes to accountability. It seems like nobody wants to deal with it. Everybody wants to pass the buck. A lot of folks are saying, hey, my uncle's telling me I need to stop and stuff like that. But I'm saying we still need to have accountability. That accountability starts with me, and I think it starts with every single one of us. But where do you go, Ted or Randall, when as you go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and you have a legitimate question, you have a legitimate gripe, they just, Ted Paul goes in and says, the judge just raped and sodomized me. And every judge above says, we're not going to give you a platform for you to address that because we don't want everybody to know that one of our own raped and sodomized Ted Paul. Okay? Where does Ted Paul go then to get a remedy of redress for the grievances, given that the whole court system wants to conceal the fact of what they've committed? Where'd he go?
That's a good question. So right now, there's nowhere to go. It's a monopoly. And I always kind of thought of it this way. We have a government agency called the Post Office, right? The United States Post Office. Tell me if I'm crazy here because this is my thought process. But so the United States Postal Service has competition. They have the UPS, they have FedEx, and multiple other ones. So why is the judiciary, which basically gives out things to the public, services to the public, whether constitutional or unconstitutional, they're giving their services. So why don't we have a second option? Why do they have the monopoly?
And that is exactly what we need to work on. We need to connect with Martin and the jury concept that he has put together. We need to connect with across Chris Hallett and the fiduciary licenses. And we need to stop fighting this protected women, men's rights, all of these other groups, because until you get the judiciary correct, and Brian's got the right concept here, is the judicial accountability, because it's not just us. And until we get people awareness, until people decide that they're not going to stand for this anymore, I mean, I hate to give Antifa credit, but at least they're going out on the 4th. They're doing it wrong, but at least they're out there. I don't know where, like Brian says, he gets attacked all the time. Why don't you give up? Why don't you give up? And that is the concept of America today. Why don't you give up? You're never going to be. You're never going to, it's just like the people that fight the UN. There's 5 of them that's just constantly going after the UN, and they don't do. There's nobody backing them up. There's nobody out there that is getting mad enough, and people don't understand. You are passing the system on to your kids. If your kids aren't going to get you off your Facebook butt, if you want to go work 40 hours, 80 hours a week, and not, I think you're giving your kids something when it's being taken away anyway. I don't understand this. This is where I have a problem with people, is how can you sit there and complain, and not get up, do something, not meet up once a month even. If you only had a meeting once a month with other like-minded people. You can't even get the churches involved in this because they don't want it's a divorce matter. Like I said, I don't understand where these people are coming from.
Yeah, it's well, this is the thing. All right, you have a few different groups of folks, and usually those groups are coming from the people who are specifically focused on Title 4D. You have a group of fathers and a group of mothers constantly battling each other and saying, it's this way because of that, and it's that way because of this, and you know what? They're both right. What we need to look at, if you're going to look at people, look at both male and female children, because if you look at the people who are victims of Title 4E, who are also victims of Title 4D because they make foster parents pay child support as well, they're not getting a divorce. They're not going through the family court system, but they are victims of the same incentives that you are. They don't care about whether you hate your ex or not. They're trying to stay together, because as soon as they get a divorce, CPS will use that against them to take their kids. So that's what you need to be focused on when you're mad at the Women's Coalition, or if you, Women's Coalition, are mad at the Father's Rights Movement. It's not about you guys. I hold the sign that says "Stop the War Against Parents" because the children can't fight for themselves. They get taken into custody if we do something wrong. Whether we go to jail or not, they're in custody. So that's really what we need to focus on. Not that it's a feminist thing or MGTOW thing. This is about the state profiting off of children, period. And that happens with Title 4D. They want to make you an uncustodial parent so they can profit off your child support, period. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. They don't care anymore. Yes, at one point in time, traditionally, men were the breadwinners, and today that's probably still the case slightly. But they don't care about that either. If there's, if you're the breadwinner, you're going to be the non-custodial parent almost 100% of the time. If there's disabilities involved and other things, you can throw in this, that, or the other. Buts, I like to call them, everywhere, in every situation. But the bottom line is the incentives. Until we get rid of the incentives, nothing is going to change. But it also goes further than that, past family court, into all aspects of the judiciary, and that's where the judicial accountability movement comes in. That's my take on it. That's how I've been trying to bridge this gender gap between the Title 4D victims for the last close to a year now, because I was certainly full of hate, thinking the completely wrong things because I did not have the right information.
Exactly. You're exactly right. But it comes down to the judiciary being the incentive, and the incentive, themselves, and you can't get people to understand that. And I don't know, Bryant, maybe you can have it. Where do we get? You're being attacked because of funds. Where do we get people to understand that this funding is the problem? You constantly come back, you get raped, and you have nowhere to go with it. Well, if I'm giving you $1 million, of course.
More than 20.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, where do we?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, I really believe very much in accountability. I don't think that, judges should be able to escape a liability, just as I said earlier in the show tonight about using Ted Fogg as an example. When you go into court, if Ted came into one of my homes or something, and I did to Ted what the judge did there, and maybe it's not in a literal sense, but a figurative sense, when you go to court, you might as well plan on getting raped and sodomized, because they are going to screw you. There's just no way around it. And then once they screw you, who takes the responsibility and who assumes the liability for them doing that to you unjustifiably? And that's what my whole argument's about. It's like sooner or later somebody needs to take these people to task, and that's what we've tried to do for 11 years. And, it makes it very frustrating because it's a constant battle. You go into court and you got the facts, you got the evidence, and while theoretically correct, you've got an appeals court, you've got a Supreme Court, you've got all these different courts that you can go to, once as you go into it to the depths and the degree that we have, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court on 2 occasions, with all of the facts, all of the evidence, and they still deny the damn truth, okay? We have a judiciary that's predicated on a precept of justice, which is an illusionary concept because they always revert back to the trial court's decision. So until the trial court judges are held liable criminally and financially, I think that we're just kidding ourselves. I think that, we need to take it. Somebody needs to step in, just as they did in the Greylord scandal, and saying, hey, this is an abomination. But when it happens in the domestic relations arena, they always revert back and say, well, this was just a disgruntled litigant. This was a breakup of a family here that couldn't keep their own things in check. And never mind that they don't want to talk about the proliferation of abuse that they're delivering. The only thing they want to talk about is what a dysfunctional individual that you are, Randall or Ted or whomever, because you're not accepting our version of events. And if your version is wrong because it's my ass that you raped and sodomized, and it's my ass that's still sore, don't tell me that I don't have a sore ass. And that's what the court tries to do. They try to come back and tell you, oh, you're taking this the wrong way. Oh, well, the judge, they've got latitude. They made an error. They made a blunder. Well, when that error or blunder separates you from the ones that you love unjustifiably, there has to be some type of a redress for those grievances. I truly believe that.
Right.
But the question, go ahead.
Well, they do that. It's evolved that way to alienate you. So whatever they say is the truth. That's ingrained in us since we're little. You put your hand on the Bible and you swear an oath, thinking that their oath that they swore is like this godly thing that they have to do, and it will always happen. They'll always tell the truth. You'll always get justice. And that's just like in our head, just like you call 911 if you're in trouble. And so they've used that in a way. I mean, it's a perfect disguise, or like Nico Hayes said, beautiful guys. And so over the last 241 years, they've taken inches and inches and inches to the point where they tell you it's this way. Your preconceived notion is, okay, then it's just me. I'm an idiot, and I just don't know how the process is. And that's how they alienate each and every single person that they do this to. They're doing this to millions and millions of people, and millions of them think I'm an idiot because I don't know the law. They're doing their just thing. I'm either unlucky or I'm dumb. It's just the way it is. And then you have us. The people are like, this isn't right. This should not be happening.
Okay, but Chad, just like you, okay, or me or Randall, okay, we don't need to know the law if we've had somebody shove something up our ass, okay? We know that we've been sodomized, okay? And it's the court's job, and that's what frustrates me is that don't sit and tell me that I didn't have something shoved up my ass if you shoved something up my ass, okay? That's what upsets me with the court.
I don't think anybody literally shoved anything up your ass, though.
No, it's ran down my throat. I was expected to accept this fact that they take and they build an illusion. They take and they draw you into a courtroom, then they come out of that courtroom and they make a statement saying that based upon the allegation that was levied against you, we're going to separate you from you and your children. Well, what was the allegation? Well, we don't have an obligation to tell you. Well, I don't know about where the hell you came from, but where I come from, somebody's going to owe me a damn explanation as to why the hell you think that you can take and drop a conclusion that you're going to separate me from my children predicated upon an allegation and not even convert to me what the hell the allegation is. That's ignorant.
Well, their standard of evidence and is way, they're them. our preconceived notion is what they say is godly, it's law, it's 100%. It always is, because they're the educated ones. So their level of what they need for proof is way down here, way at the bottom. Now, for us to come up against anything they say, even with plain evidence, the standard is way up here. So how do the people?
And then when you do have the evidence and you do have that standard and you met that standard, what happens then, Ted, is they raise the bar.
Yep.
They just keep putting the bar up higher and higher and higher. When I went to the U.S. Supreme Court in our second filing, and I had those buggers by the cojones, because I was saying, it's your own record. You tell me that I'm supposed to have this, and then when your own record shows that you're not giving me what I'm supposed to have, and yet I'm supposed to accept the fact that I'm supposed to be perfectly placated and pacified with the fact that I'm not getting what you already told me that I'm rightfully able to have.
Right.
That's stupid.
Well, there's your case involves CPS, and when we go into any CPS case, it just gets blatantly obvious how just backwards it is. Whether you have done anything or not doesn't really matter. There are people within this movement who did need a wake-up call. They did what they were supposed to do, and they never see their kids again. And that can be based on events that happened before your children were born, which doesn't even make any sense to me. You're not convicted of a crime. You're not convicted or told that you are unfit. It's just you did something back, 20 years ago, and because of that, you can't see your kids. I know your kid's only 10 years old. He wasn't born until 10 years, after you doing this. That happens a lot with people. That just happened to Ed, a friend of mine. And what happened in your situation was nothing. Nothing happened, but they said because you may do something. You didn't see your daughter for 7 years, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't have her.
Yeah, he didn't have her he fought for her for 8. But, you have that other issue where, and it's not only, people need to understand this. It's not just family law. It's
right.
Probate courts. And we just had this thing come out with the Cash for Kids again down in Florida, where they're using the kids as gladiators within the juvenile system. These are your kids. We're charging kids now that are in their teens with adult crimes and putting a 13 and 14-year-old kid in jail for life. For life.
Yeah.
These things are ridiculous, and we're all going on the precept just like CPS. You may do something wrong in the future. Please, somebody tell me where, somebody, anybody, everybody has not thought about, I hate that person, I want to kill that person. You're not going to do it, but look at how many times it has crossed your brain, and now they're saying you can get thrown in jail for that. Or you can get your kids removed just because you had a bad day and you yelled at your kids today because, the boss yelled at you. It's not right, but it's not a reason to end everything. It's not a reason to take out everything away, and it's definitely not evidence. And this is all because, you look at the statistics, the single parent kids that are going to jail now, the single parent kids that grow up and can't have a family because they never grew up with that type of mentoring in their life, and they all want to fix it by money, and money's not going to fix this problem. And people will not stand up and stand together. Like I said, we have to get rid of The incentives, like you said, we have to get, you know, like I said, Martin's got the great thing going where if you're not going to give me a jury, we're going to start our own jury because the Constitution says we can have a jury.
Right. I really like Martin's ideas on that.
You know, but it takes people. It takes people. And if you're not going to, you know, if you're going to work 80 hours a week so you can't see your kids, I don't know. I don't know why you want to pass the system down to your kids anyway. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's why we're here. Is we're not going to allow our kids to be in the system. We're going to end the system. We're either going to fix it or we're going to end it. One or the other.
Amen.
Amen.
And
hopefully that doesn't take 20 years, because I think another 20 years, you know, we have 24 million children not, you know, growing up without a biological parent or without at least one. 1 in 100 Americans are incarcerated. 3/4 of them are in jails, and 3/4 of that are in there for no conviction. So if you think about this reality, this has been going on for 20 years now with the incentives. 20 more years of this? What, are we going to have like 1 in 10 people incarcerated? Are we going to have 100 million children growing up without... Because it's getting doubly worse every year. They're getting better and better at this. And they need that revenue. Revenue doesn't go down every year. Every year you need raises, right? Every year you need to make more money. So they're generating more and more revenue from these incentives every year. In 20 years, if that's the case, if we have 1 in 10 or even 1 in 20 Americans incarcerated, we can pretty much hand the country over to Al-Qaeda and rename the country the United States of Al-Qaeda at that point. We're going to be taken over. 5 years from now, I think ultimately, if we don't get this taken care of, or a large chunk of it, by the end of 2018, when we still have a single-party administration, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, I don't care, but it's one group of people that we can focus on. Once it's split up, it'll be more difficult, I think. But I think we have a good chance if we keep growing our voices. There's a couple of ideas in the works to, as long as everybody can work together, and like we mentioned before, a community conference call, getting these ideas of mass calling legislators with the same exact message about reform. You know, you're running for office this year, we want you to talk about this. That's not going to happen if 10 of us call. It might help if 100 of us call. But if thousands...
Yeah, but here's where I'm at, Jay. Here's where I'm at. I don't know about anybody else here, but I'm saying, okay, when does the time for talk come to an end and a time for action? We've been talking and talking and talking and talking and talking.
Yep.
And the problem is, just as you're saying, is that it gets progressively worse instead of better.
Yep.
And the reason, in my opinion, that it gets progressively worse is because the court system systematically takes away our rights in order to give us a privilege.
Yep.
And then, as Patrick Henry said, ultimately, one day we'll lose both. You know, we never gave up on our rights for our children. We never gave up, and it's the same in elderly abuse cases. It's the same in wars of the state. It's the same. The court has figured out how to take and make a profit off of the challenges that people face in life.
Yeah.
Whether it be a separation, a divorce, whether it be, you know, an allegation that's levied against you. And let's face the reality of life. You know, because I also sit on the Innocence Project, and some of those people, they go into jail and they're looking at doing 30 years to life for a crime that they knowingly know that they didn't commit. But yet, the court system will stack the deck, and they say what can be presented, what can't be presented, and then you know what we're going to do? We're going to give you 10 years, and they're saying they're either looking at 30 years to life or 10 with the possibility of getting out in 5. So they're going to go ahead and they take the 5, and guess what happens to the revenue for the state? Because now we've got another incarcerated individual, so now we need to house that individual at a cost here in the state of Ohio of $136,000 a year. So I don't know about you, but it's like out here where I'm at, I got to manage on, making chunk change, compared to that $136,000. And then, you're sitting there and saying, well, we're paying $136,000 to keep this boy in a cage or woman in a cage. We're going to keep them there. We're going to make sure that we follow all the programs and all the protocol. But ultimately, when they get out, the recidivism rate is right now 82%. So that means that 18 people out of every 100 will be able to stay out. But who questions, are they going to stay out for the rest of their life? Or are they only going to stay out until they become a target by the state once again?
Right.
Steve Avery did a documentary called The Making of a Murderer. And it's not enough now just for you to be able to go in with the evidence. Now the state builds the record against you just so that they can continually stack the deck.
Right.
And that's what people better be looking at, is that it starts off in the breakdown of the family unit, and then we have our children growing up, and they're thinking, well, dad left, mom left, there was some other reason. Never mind the fact that maybe they never left. Maybe they were pushed out of their life, because it's a harsh reality that the vast majority of these, as soon as an allegation of abuse is levied, I just got a case yesterday where a guy went in and CPS told the woman that if you file for a protection order, we're going to take his name, Eric Brent. We will get you housing. We will get you this. We will get you that. Well, now she comes back. She signs this protection order. Well, then she calls back to Eric Brent because now the state is trying to take her children, okay, because they're saying, well, you have a problem here in a system, or whereas you haven't had good relationships in the past. Well, I don't know about you or anybody else, but who the hell cares about your past? That's your past. But why did you take the children and set them up in an environment whereas now they have no father, now the state's taking possession of the children, and now the state benefits all the way around, and yet I'm telling this boy, the law's clear. It says that if there is no responsibility, or no rights, then there is no responsibility. But yet the state's still hammering him to get their money every month.
See, this
because
is
why? They've got this power called an interlocutorial order, which means that they can set out there for the next 18 years of that child's life if it happens at birth, and it's an interlocutorial order, even though you don't have access to your child, even though your child's in foster care, even though your child might be adopted out, the state has this interlocutorial order that still sits in place, and you're still going to pay the piper.
Yeah.
It's horseshit.
Well, I think like you told me, because we were chatting the other day, and it was probably one of the more depressing conversations we've had, because you're always very upbeat. This is ending sooner than later, and you have been in kind of a slump. But the thing that you mentioned is, all right, a year ago, a little over a year ago, let's say 2 years ago, we weren't talking like this. I mean, I didn't know any of you 2 years ago, but you didn't see anybody talking on Blog Talk, hardly. Nobody was talking on social media. And now here we are. We're conversing in this way. This is our media platform so far. And in a way, we've come a long way. That sounded strange. But we have come a long way. And like the Far From Normal show last night, we have a celebrity, an ambassador, Natasha Pavlovich, who was beaten just like we were by the court system. She's very focused on a specific judge right now, and that's huge. That's gigantic. I mean, she knows people like Jim Carrey, producers. She knows a lot of people in the entertainment business. So will that help propel this a little further? I'm hoping. That's going to do nothing but good. So we just keep on going. And I believe Connie regularly was the first person to reach out to her because they're both in Tennessee. And so we're all over the country, we're all over the world, and little by little we keep on being vocal. We keep on telling, or we help other people to be vocal and get their voice out there. And people like Natasha will hear this. We know that Brad Pitt went through this, and we're all imagining, imagine if he caught on and talked to one of us and started helping it. That would be huge. Well, eventually that's going to happen. Eventually the people affected are going to realize that they're not stupid. They're not the only ones. And they'll come to us. They'll find one of us and want to help. That will grow, and that will grow. And I really hope it grows enough by the end of 2018. But I think in the long run, in under 5 years, by the end of 2020, I really feel like we'll have the millions affected. We'll have a lot of those being vocal. I think this little Facebook community we have of 5-10,000, and there's more than that. There's hundreds of thousands who keep tabs on us but aren't as vocal. We keep getting people, and we'll see that growing to millions keeping tabs on us and hundreds of thousands being vocal. And when that happens, this ends. I mean, right now, only 56 people signed the Declaration of Independence, correct?
Exactly, and that's what Martin says. We only need 12 in each state to work on his juries. We only need, but we need them in each state. We need people to stop using this excuse, well, they must have done something wrong. Well, it's not my business. My family's together. Well, it's not my business. Kids are, and this concept, kids are a less, what's the word I'm looking for? They can get over the issues. They can get over the issues. And
no, they're going to be Batman movie shooters.
We have gotten over that, and over that we've got proof, we've gotten the statistics, and people still think it's okay to put their kids through this type of thing, and that they will get over it. And if they would have gotten over it since the 70s, it wouldn't have got this far. I mean, you keep talking 20 years, but this has been going on for 50 years, 60 years, and it's constantly getting worse and worse and worse, and people just are not understanding the fact that it's getting worse and worse and worse instead of, people getting over it.
You're correct.
Brian?
The 1970, when no-fault divorce was put into place, was really the turning point. And, you took a process, a reason for getting a divorce was found to be unconstitutional. So they took that same process and put it with this new constitutional version of divorce, which makes the new version unconstitutional, because now you have two people in front of a judge who did absolutely nothing. I'd love to talk to Ronald Reagan about why he signed this into effect in the state of California in 1970, and that's really the root of the problem. The incentives are a byproduct of that problem, and ultimately, none of this family court stuff will be fixed until we get to that root of the problem and change the process of no-fault divorce. You can't have a situation where you can default a contract for whatever reason, but then not also have something in that contract that says how it gets dissolved. Now you have two people that hate it. Doesn't matter what relationship it is. I've had to put liens on people's property. Tell you what, it never went to court because there was a contract that said how this is supposed to end. It always gets settled before court. But that's the thing, is there's nothing in place at the onset of the contract to tell you how this contract ends. The lawyers love it. It's become a financial juggernaut of an institution. Trillions of dollars when you take into consideration the attorney's fees. How much this actually costs Americans is in the trillions. If Donald Trump wanted to save billions right off the bat, he could just simply get rid of the incentives. If he wanted to save trillions, we go back to 1970 and we make no-fault divorce actually constitutional, and we have a simple contract. It's so effing simple. It's mind-boggling to me that we've evolved to this situation. And really all it takes is talking. People talking about it. And the more people talk about it and realize and come to this epiphany, like, yeah, this is ridiculous. How did this happen? We don't know why, but it shouldn't be happening. But I believe it happened because the lawyers stood to profit off it. They knew it in 1970. Maybe they didn't realize how horrible it would be. 40 years, I'm 41, so 48 years.
Yeah.
48
but
years
no,
ago.
And Ted, I want to put that, because when I got into this movement, we had a group. It was called the Texas Family Law Reform Foundation.
What year was that?
And they had about 3,000 members.
Oh, wow.
And we actually got a representative voted into office who was part of this group. And her name was Debbie Riddle. And as soon as we put up the equal parenting bill in front of her, we found out that she and part of these people in it are the ones that defeated the bill. And we went back and started looking at the people in this group, and come to find out they were all attorneys. And we've got the video of these attorneys standing in front of the committee and going, no, you can't have that, because these people are still going to fight, and you need us to intervene, and you need us to intervene. There's no way you can make me believe that the people that put these incentives together and that did not know down the road exactly what they were doing and how much money they were creating. We have an adoption agency right here in my small town in Texas, and they spent $100,000 to move 300 people from Victoria, Texas to Waco, Texas, which is probably a 3-hour drive. $100,000 to move 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
So they know what the business is. They know what it was, and even if the new senators that are in that don't know what's going on, because this was 50 years ago, I can see some of the new ones, but the old ones definitely knew what was going on. The Clintons knew what they were doing when they invoked this.
The more I learn about the people involved with the incentives, there was a buildup in the 90s which goes into, it starts touching on a non-profit called the AFCC, Newt Gingrich. And so what they started doing was they started saying in the early mid-90s that we need to welfare reform. We need to get these single mothers off of welfare, and it led up to this situation where you had, 26 people. 15 of them were Health and Human Resources employees or representatives. The other 11 were what is known as Title IV representatives, which basically is Health and Human Resources as well. And we know that the Health and Human Resources are the people who disperse the incentive money. So the people who were going to profit off of this created this, gave it, packaged it in this nice thing saying, well, this will these incentives will be good because we'll get more foster parents for foster kids. We'll get more non-custodial parents to pay child support. And it all sounded beautiful the way. And you got to remember, the Clintons aren't stupid people. They really know how to sell things. I mean, Hillary Clinton was an incredible attorney, amazing, top notch. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, those top-notch lawyers are even better politicians most of the time. If you don't have a face for acting, but you have that talent, you become a politician. And if you're a great politician, you're also a great lawyer. The sky's the limit, and the Clintons are certainly both of those. I mean, the way they hid the incentives inside of Title IV, knowing that people like Planned Parenthood, especially liberals, more feminist-leaning people, when you say Title IV anything, they think you're bashing help for women. They think you're bashing, Planned Parenthood. No, Title IV-D and Title IV-E have absolutely nothing to do with Planned Parenthood. That's just where the Clintons put it to hide it. So they knew that if anybody got pissed off at it, they'd have a whole enormous population of people that says, no, you're not touching Title IV. You're not touching Title IV anything. That helps mothers. I mean, it's really ingenious the way they set it up. It's beautiful. It's like 007 stuff. The most evil genius in the world couldn't have done a better job. So, really, there is going to be an end to this. I hope sooner than later, so we don't have to do this in 20 years. But I really think if we can't come together and simply start making calls, and this is something that we're going to be working out with people like Francesca, who's getting a lot of attention. She's amazing, and she'll be going live tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm going to help her with her broadcast. It's going to be different. But I think she has a hand to play in the following year as far as getting people working together. The idea about calling instead of sending letters is huge. And if we do mass calling, just like the opposition does, then we'll really be in a good position to make some change. We keep helping individual people, but we need to start focusing on, today I need to call this person. I need to call this number that the guy that Ted gave me or Brian gave me. And really, we need to be doing this every day, calling one number, talking with the secretary of a legislator. Just simply say, I want you to talk about family law reform or Title IV-D and E incentives. A simple sentence, a one-liner. You call, you say that, you hang up. We get an influx of those of a few thousand, and they're going to hear about it. They get a few thousand letters, they'll open one or two, the rest of them will get thrown away. But you make a call, they have to answer your call immediately. It's immediate. It's right away. It's not like an email where they can let it sit there and, when they get time or never get time. A call, they answer a call. We start doing that, we'll start seeing legislators talking about this. That's what I see in the short term.
And you brought up a good point. You brought up a good point. Letters and emails are not this point. We've talked to Marty Oakley, who's been a whistleblower for a long time. Calls and faxes. A fax goes into their electronic system and it doesn't get deleted. So faxes are the way to go. But as far as the judiciary, and Brian's been out here yelling for years, where do we go? I've already taken their road. Now, where do we go? Where do we go now that I've taken the road? Reach out to Brian and tell him once how do we handle, because not everybody can go into court, and not everybody can write a nice fax. And it doesn't, but you brought up a good point. It doesn't have to be a nice fax. It could be simply one of the things I learned, and this happened to me several years ago, is go to whatever party you belong. Go to their local conference. Go to their county conference. It's usually on a Saturday, so it's not going to interfere with your work. And if you walk in there with 10 words on a piece of paper, 10 words, reform Title 4E and 4D of the Social Security Act.
Well, this is the start.
You don't even have to talk about.
I think the
you
phone.
don't even have to talk about.
Right. I think the
family
phone calls
law.
is the start
You don't
to
have
that.
to talk about anything. But if you all you have to do is, because these people are your neighbors.
Right.
They really are. I walked in with a suit and everybody else was in a T-shirt. So your conference is not a scary thing to go to.
No.
But these people are your business owners. And you can just simply say, this is where they're stealing your Social Security. This is where you don't have to talk about family law at all. You don't have to get into your case. You don't have to get it. Just simply say, this is where they're stealing it, and this is why I want you to vote to put this on the agenda.
Yep.
And you will get everybody in the room to vote on it in that aspect, because they're all looking at Social Security. They're all in their 30s and 40s, expecting to get this. And if they think they can beat their Social Security, you'll have their vote, and it'll be talked about, because even though it may never be voted on in the Senate or in the Congress or anything like that, it will still be on the party platform.
Right. And that's what I think the calls will help do. It'll help people with that. All you need to do is make a call. You don't need to go meet with anybody or anything. But what that will do is they'll feel comfortable. They'll be like, oh, well, I talked to this person on the phone. I said family law reform, so maybe I'll go down there with and say a couple of words. I think that will evolve to that. Brian, did we lose you?
No, you did, but I called back in.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to add a couple of things, because I agree with what Randall's saying and things, but Ted, here last Thursday, I went down for a court hearing for a party. Now, and I just want you to hear this, and Randall, okay, when I get to the court, and of course, when I go to the court now, I've taken and make it a practice now. I wear my jam shirt, and it says that, enforce the law, prosecute crooked judges. Well, there's another guy sitting in the courtroom going in right before me, and now his shirt, it says, hey, I'm just another fucking idiot. And that's what it says right on his shirt. I'm just another fucking idiot, okay? And then another shirt sitting in there, and it says, it's got a picture of a fist with a finger up, the middle finger up, and it says Obama underneath of it, right? Well, these other parties, they're allowed to sit there in the courtroom, okay? But in mine, I'm asked to leave. So I go outside, and the bailiff tells me that I'm not allowed to wear that shirt in the court. And I'm saying there was no profanity. There was nothing vulgar, okay? Why is it that I'm getting singled out here for doing this? The judge found it inappropriate attire. And I said, inappropriate attire? Well, I find it inappropriate that I have to wear this attire to get the damn message across about his inappropriateness. So who's correct in their analysis? Is it the judge or is it me? Well, needless to say, I go outside then because they tell me I have to leave the court. So I figured, okay, I might as well stand outside the court for a little bit because I got to wait on him. I gave him the ride. So I'm standing outside the court. When they come outside the court and tell me that I got to leave the grounds because I can't be there with that shirt. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is quite, but yet, if you take and you go back and you read the U.S. versus Spring case, the United States Supreme Court said that fuck you is an adjective, it's neither a noun or a directive, but yet, my shirt, there's no vulgarity, no profanity, nothing at all. All it does is have a message on it, and I'm ran out of freaking town because of wearing a damn shirt.
And what did the message say exactly again, Brian? I remember, but so
It says,
everybody
it
knows.
says it's time to drain the swamp, enforce the law, prosecute crooked judges. And on the back it says join the jam, you know?
Yep.
So, and it puts right in
That's
our
it.
logo. So, you know, it's pretty simplistic, pretty down to earth. And, you know, I thought, you know, I ain't doing nothing wrong, you know? So, anyway, he's got court again next Thursday. So I'm going back down to the court again. And this time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the thing with a shirt on like this, a button-up shirt, and then once I go in, I'll just go into the courthouse and sit in the courtroom and take my shirt off rather than, you know, and just have my T-shirt on and see what the judge has to say.
There
It's
you
going to
go.
be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Well, if we can film
Video
that,
Video it.
yeah, if you could get somebody to film it, film the whole experience, and we'll broadcast it live for everybody to watch.
But
I'd
see,
like that.
here in the state of Ohio now, you can't even, in some of the courthouses in Ohio, you can't even take your cell phone into the court. Yeah.
That's not just family court, but other courts.
Well, I don't know. Only ones that I've tried that with is in family court.
Oh,
You know.
I'd bring like what Mr. Gill does when I've court watched for him is he had his son full on camera, you know, TV camera right there, and somebody else was had the tripod and everything. I carried something, I don't even remember what it was, but all ready to set up, and he put it off in the corner of the pew, put the camera on there, and just do
See,
it.
that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand, Chad. Here in the state of Ohio, right on every one of our courthouses, it says that there is no recording, no videos. And I'm saying it's supposed to be a damn open court.
Right.
We're the taxpayers. We own the damn building. How the hell do you people get to make the arbitrary election of choice to tell us that we can't record what's going on in our own building? This is stupid.
Well, I would like there's a document, and it's been you know a couple of months since I've talked about it, but it's something from the New Hampshire State of Corruption that you know you file this saying I am going to be recording this, so they're aware of it, and then you
Yeah.
you have that you know stamped, received,
Yeah.
all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And you bring a copy of that
Yeah.
with you with your camera, and you say, "This,
Yeah.
I filed this. You guys are
Okay.
aware of this."
Right. Now, let's go through that for a minute there, because we have a case here in the state of Ohio, Chuck Evans' case. Now, we had filed for, you know, a notice to the court that we were coming in with video equipment to be able to record his proceedings, because he has just an absolute nightmare of a case. Well, so imagine this. You're the parent, you want to see your child, and you take in the court, they never give you an answer whether you can show up to record or whether they can't. Because you know why? You get to that court date, and they reset it and schedule it out for 88 days later. Now, I don't know about you all, but here, and I tell everybody, is that every day that you're separated from your children is another day of hell and torment for that child, drawing the perception that, hey, mom's out there or dad's out there, but they really don't care because they didn't come to the court. Not knowing that the court deliberately, willfully, intentionally will take and shut you down and give you a continuance or a postponement and not allow the hearing to go forward. And I've got a number of those cases. I can get you in touch with Kathy Buckner. The exact same thing. You know, the court, you set this up and you go through all the motions to get it, and then you have to file to the court to let them know, and the court systematically shuts you down
Right.
and silence you.
I'm having some audio
See, my
problems.
stick now,
The thing is, if you at least let them know that you're going to exercise your rights, it puts them in a corner. I'm not saying it's going to work. That specific day, that judge was wishy-washy. He was so flip-floppy on the recording thing. He said, well, maybe I need to continue, just do a continuance. And that wasn't for Gil, that was for Fedor. I was down there court watching for him too. And So instead, you know, Greg said, "Never mind, we won't film it. I want to go on with the case." You know, but Greg was in his he was correct. You know, it was well within his rights to film in that court. That wasn't, you know, and that was in family court. This judge, he was an older judge, he said, "Well, I'm not sure. I'll have to review this. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. Why don't we continue this?" And basically, like I said, Greg said, "No, that's just, we won't film. I just want to get this over with." And that's kind of what I'm sure he expected to happen, was he'll just get out of it one way or the other. Either he won't film, or I won't have to do this today.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you sit there and you say to yourself is that, wait a minute, we can send freaking people to the moon, but yet, and we can capture everything on a football game, okay, or a baseball game, right? And we can go back and we can replay it. We can say, hey, the boy slid into home base, and did he catch the ball right when he was doing it or not? And right down to the minute second. I mean, a fraction of a second, but yet in a courtroom, we can't have cameras in our court. And then there's another money-making opportunity. If you take and you look at, like here, at least in the state of Ohio, whereas before you can go up to the appeals court, you have to have a transcript of the record. Well, you know, I know in myself, I've spent over $80,000 in transcripts, okay? And I'm sitting there and saying, well, wait a minute. The vast majority of the people, when they go for an appeal, number one, they don't have the money for the appeal. Number two is the court makes it cost prohibitive because they've got this thing in place, whereas like here in Champaign County, and we argued on that, and Jim Croper, he was upset about it because they took and we win in one battle, and in one you lose another, because I was saying, why is it remotely possible, or how is it remotely possible? Every court transcriptionist has to be licensed by the state in the state of Ohio. If you're going to be a transcriptionist for the state of Ohio, you have to be licensed by the state. So therefore, you would assume that if a transcriptionist in Champaign County was going to charge you $7 a page, and you got somebody down in Cleveland, Ohio, that is hungry, and they're willing to do it for $2.50 a page, that you would have the legal right to be able to use a state-certified transcriptionist, right? Well, no, they come back and they say, well, the transcriptionist that's from Cleveland, the judge doesn't know them, and the judge is concerned that they could taint the record. But it's not that they're worried that they could taint the record. They're worried that they might not taint the damn record.
Right.
Okay? That's the truth of it.
That is the truth of it, isn't it? Exactly.
Videotape. You know, and here's the second sentence for your phone call, Ted. Reform family courts, repeal Title 4E and 4D, and videotape every court.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it should, like Mark Young says, not only videotape it, but it should be on I mean, right now we're broadcasting live on social media. Anybody can do this. It's not rocket science. It's a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's relatively easy. Every single court case should be broadcast live.
Yep.
Doesn't matter, you know, if you could have this lady, this judge in Nevada, who made the child, the 9-year-old girl. This happened in not this last June, but the June before. They reported on it last November. They just reported on it again. They had this 9-year-old, or not they, but the judge had this 9-year-old girl by herself in court. She made the parents leave, any activists leave, any lawyers leave, interrogated this 9-year-old girl for 9 minutes. I think she was 9. Maybe I'm just thinking about the 9 minutes, and maybe she was 10 or 12 or 8. But for 9 minutes, she had this girl in her courtroom, and I have luckily, there's audio and video of it. It was very jarbled. I spent a long time trying to clean it up. And that's just it. Like, the words she used, the girl said, "Why are you doing this to me?" Threatening the girl to incarcerate the girl The girl asks, "Why are you doing this to me?" "Because it's in your best interest." "Well, how do you know my best interest? You don't know me. You're the child and I'm the adult." That was her explanation. Um, and that is an example of individual judges, like you said, Brian. They don't want to be watched. They don't want to be watched. And you know what? If you think about it, if you think about one individual having to be truthful and honest every single day, day in and day out, the whole year, year after year, decade after, however long they're doing this for, that's impossible. These people are not gods, they are people. They cannot be just 100% of the time. They can't be perfect 100% of the time. So the fact that we have judges in the first place, it's like the Wild West. Like we only had like 10 people in the town. We need one person to judge on stuff. Doesn't make sense anymore. We get rid of judges, we could pay jurors, not even just a petite jury, but a full panel 12-person jury, $75,000 a year. So if you got a letter in the mail saying jury duty, you're not going to be throwing that away like I just did. You're going to be going there because they're actually going to pay you something, probably more than you're getting already. People would jump on jury duty in a heartbeat, and we have the money to do that if we got rid of judges. And judges cannot be truthful, honest 100% of the time. No single person can. But a jury of 12 can, especially if they're not doing it day in and day out, years and years, over and over and over. When you have judges saying, well, I've heard the same thing 40 times already this week. I'm pretty sure I know what this couple is going to say. So I'm going to be working on this document, emailing my wife saying, don't worry, I'll be able to pick up my son from football practice while I'm listening to this testimony because I know what you're going to say already. I don't need to listen to you. This is what's happening time over and over, time and time again in every single court. One person cannot handle this. Just can't. So, family court doesn't need to exist, period, but it goes further than that. We don't need judges. We don't need them.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, too, is let's get rid of the word judge because they're not supposed to be a judge. They are supposed to be a referee between the two litigants, whether there be attorney there or not. They're not supposed to make the judgments. The judgments have always been according to the jury panel. They're only supposed to be a referee in the case in the first place. So, this is another concept of cleaning up the judicial system is to say, you're only a referee. You ain't got no say-so in this matter whatsoever. You ain't got nothing to say about who's right or who's wrong. You are simply a referee, and you need to be a referee and just sit there and tell us what when somebody's trying to slip a bad paperwork in or bad statement in. And that's all you're supposed to do. And this is another thing that we need to clean up in the judicial system.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and Ted, I want to jump in here for a minute because this thing on the radio, it keeps dropping me and stuff, and I can only hear every part of your guys' conversation and stuff. I haven't been able to stay with you during all of it. I've had to call back in like 12 times.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
And we got to work on that. But the thing is just like, the last time, and then I call back, and then it's busy and stuff. So I was checking on a couple of other messages there, and there's a lady there, Jody James, that puts up a thing on the Jam page saying that, perhaps when you go into court, you ought to have clean hands. Now, I want everybody to think about that for a minute. And I said, here's the reality of life. You are either a liar or you're delusional if you think that you have clean hands. Because I think each and every single one of us can always stand up and say, hey, I'm guilty here, I'm guilty there. I made a blunder here, I made a mistake there, whatever. But for the court to go back and look at something that happened 15 years ago or 18 years ago because of separation or whatever, it doesn't matter. The court has a job to do and a function, going right along with what Randall was saying. Their job is to base things off of facts and evidence, not off of speculation, conjecture, accusations, and innuendos. You've got a damn job to do. And if you're not going to do the job, then get the hell out and put somebody else in that's going to do it. You know, I really think that we don't need to have a judicial system dealing with family law matters. I'm beginning to question if we got to have a judicial system at all, because it's a joke. It is just an absolute joke when you look at the proliferation of abuse that's being delivered and the number of cases that go through, the Innocence Project and things like that, where these people plead it down. They plead it down because they realize when you go into court and you're accused of a crime, we're going to give you an option. And either you can take it to trial, which is going to cost you $50,000 to $100,000, or B, we're going to end up incarcerating your ass. Okay? And, but this time here, we're going to be nice to you, and we're only going to give you, 7 years, and you'll get out with 3 of good behavior, or we're going to look at a 15-year, and even though you never committed the crime, that's what really sets me off the most.
Yep.
Is that what happened to, you were innocent until proven guilty. Now
right.
You're guilty until you prove your own innocence.
Well,
Ignorant.
Oh, hey, Kirk, I just saw a couple of people are saying, hey, Captain Kirk. Thanks for joining us, Kirk, if you are watching. And now I just completely distracted myself. Well, that goes back to something I've said in the past, and it's what was it? 1740 something. A French person by the name of Voltaire said, "It is better to let 2 persons go free than to see one innocent man incarcerated." And then I forget who it was in Britain said, you know what, actually it's better to see 10 people to go free than 1 innocent person incarcerated. And then Benjamin Franklin, as we know, in the 1770s said, actually it's better to see 100 people go free than to see 1 innocent person incarcerated, because you know what, you can say, and I'm sick of hearing this, there's a lot of bad people in the country. There's lots of bad people in the world. That's the stupidest effing thing I've ever heard in my life. If you were in jail for doing something you didn't do, you would be saying what Benjamin Franklin said, I don't deserve to be here. I mean, the judiciary is going to make you think like you're an idiot and think that, well, you're so stupid that you allowed this to happen to yourself. That's what they're going to at least make you think. Just like the, what was that? The Shawshank Redemption, that's a good example. You're just like, well, I deserved it because, I wasn't loving enough. I wasn't a good enough husband. But no, he didn't deserve to be in there, and he escaped. Nobody who did nothing deserves to be incarcerated. And that's what created due process. You have due process. Beyond a reasonable doubt should be the standard, not presumptive, not anything. It has to be solid evidence that proves somebody guilty before going for being incarcerated.
But Ted, let me ask you a question now, okay? Because there's a case going on right here in Ohio. Now, a man takes and he makes a comment to a woman that you've got nice breasts. The woman takes and files an allegation against him for sexual harassment. Now, I don't know how about you, I don't know about Randall or anybody else, but I fail to draw the parallel. I don't see how his comment on him saying, oh, you have nice breasts, all of a sudden, he's a freaking pervert, he's a monster and stuff like that. I'm not in his head, and I can't sit there and say, maybe he's a freaking guy that studies breast for bra company. How the hell am I supposed to know? I don't know. But for somebody to make a leap from this point of him making a statement to saying that this is sexual harassment, I think that's a pretty far stretch, man.
We're getting into social.
Yeah, there's got all these people out there, though, that it's a victim-ass mentality. Woe is me, don't say this. Randall, you upset me because you said I was stupid. Now, I had to file a claim against Randall for saying that I'm stupid, you know. But it's like, because he hurt my feelings.
Randall, you
They're
have
your
a nice
feelings.
pair of
It's all over
stupid.
it. Yeah. Now, now,
My brain goes wherever it. I pull things and I put pictures in my head. The social justice stuff is insanity, and that the hurt philioma. You know, listening to talk radio as I do, I don't know if anybody ever heard of Todd Clem's case, otherwise known as Bubba the Love Sponge. You know, he was making fun of this guy on the radio, and the guy decided to sue him. And the case went on for a long time, and he spent, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars because this guy's feelings were hurt. Ultimately, the case was thrown out, but the court allowed to see it. Because he said it was harassment, and so it's a fine line. I don't know what happened with your that case you're talking about with the breastises. Hopefully, if it was just the comment, and we're not taking it out of context. If he's some kind of like predator and he won't stop. Like, it's every day with the freaking nice breasts, nice titties, nice ass, da-da-da-da-da. Maybe, yeah, that's harassment.
There's a one-time statement that he made to this lady. Yeah. No. And, like, okay, but I don't know whether he made it to 10 other ladies. I don't know that. You know what I'm saying? I was just made aware of it the other day because they wanted me to get involved in it, and I said, I could care less. I'm not getting in this guy's freaking head. I got enough my own problems staying in my own head, trying to figure out my own madness and dealing with this stuff. But I just sat there and I looked at this and I'm saying, how can you take and draw such a, and doesn't he have the right for freedom of speech? I mean, a woman can come up and say to you, Ted Foss, F you, you know what I mean? Yeah. And now, should you say, well, I'm offended because she used the word F?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's stupid.
And that's what due process is for, to protect against things like that. And when the Bill of Rights, and if we get into this, a lot of people didn't want to write the Bill of Rights, and I'm reiterating what Kirk has said, because we have really too many rights and to list everything. So they did the best they could, and a lot of it was common sense. They put in these broad umbrella terms and the rest of it's really common sense. But since they left out those individual things, the judiciary has said common sense. The way we've evolved, and I attribute this a lot to the 90s, the way we think about certain things like harassment. It's a good example of how we've taken the Bill of Rights and common sense things and just thrown them out the window. And the judiciary has used that same type of thought process to incrementally put themselves in power way over us. We're supposed to. We are, like he said, the republic. We are public. The government is us. We are supposed to be in control of the judiciary, of that branch, and we're just not at all. They are running rampant, and it won't end until we change perceptions, and this is how we do it. Simply is. So
exactly. But we are running down on time here, Ted.
Okay.
And he got kicked again. But these simple things, writing your facts and sending the facts, calling. I mean, these are simple things. If you're too lazy to really get up off your couch and meet with other people, these are simple things you can do 2 or 3 a day. If you want to connect, please reach out, connect with other people in your community, get your community set up. Brian's got a friend, Tristan. she started out actually going to the courthouse and collecting names off of divorce cases and CPS cases, all the family law docket. And she'd just take the names and she'd go back home and she'd spend the night on Facebook searching these people out. And she built a community just, I believe it's just south of you, Brian, isn't it? For Tristan. You know, but in 30 days, she had 30 people coming to her meetings.
That's awesome.
It's that simple. It doesn't take a whole lot. If you want to know what Kirk knows, if you want to know what I know, what Randy Davis knows, I tell you, Crystal, you had Crystal on the other night. She's awesome. You know, Crystal has only been studying law for about 9 months since we started Law for Dummies.
Right.
And now she is in federal court with 17 attorneys as the defendants, and she's winning.
Yep.
And she studied during her lunch hour. It does not take a lot. Don't fall into this, you know, we're just the people, and what are we going to do about it? Because, like I said, there's a lot of
Yep.
there's a lot of people out here that have spent no money, are learning, and are winning their cases. We have CPS. We're winning in CPS in cases only because people are standing up for their kids.
That's
and if
right.
you're not standing up for your neighbor's kids, shame on you.
That's what we're doing. Is we're trying to extend this past just our kids to our neighbors, understanding that this can happen to their kids. So we're talking about neighbors' kids, and we're going to make it easy on you. We're going to ask you to make some calls, not go straight down there and speak with them in person. We're going to help you get comfortable with this process to help us end this. So I'm hoping in a year from now, we'll be talking. If you imagine, if you make a call and you make a few calls, you'll get comfortable where you might want to go down and talk with these people in person. A year from now, I want to see our governors and legislators talking about what we're talking about, and seeing these cases more focused on by the main media. So with that, this was fun. Let's do it again next week. Brian and Randall, what do you think?
I'm in for it, and maybe we, you know, Ted and I are going to get together in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to work out some bugs, and we're going to get a conference call, a weekly conference call or a monthly conference call, to where we can get 100 minds together and united and working on these problems.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And get activated.
Any last words of wisdom
Brian,
for
you
us,
got
Brian?
anything?
Thanks. Good night.
All right. Good night, everybody. I'll let us go with that same song that I made. I'm not sure this is gonna stick, but I made this for Brian, and it's not half bad. So thank everybody for watching. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Francesca will be live on her page on the March's YouTube, March's Twitter. So don't miss that at 1 p.m. Eastern, or check it out later. Have a great night, everybody.
And this will be aired on Blog Talk Radio, Future of Our Children. We have been recording it. Probably the first 20 minutes is not, it's about us discussing how to get on. but
Some bugs.
45 minutes, I think. But it is going to be aired on Blog Talk, too.
Awesome. Have a good night, Randall.
Good night, everybody.